Hello, everybody. It's Marcy from wavesofcommunication.com. The information I provide is designed to equip and empower parents and caregivers to take at least one conscious, focused, positive action today toward helping your child shift from nonverbal communication into unprompted spoken language. There's no time like now to make the necessary changes you need to see the success that you want for the late talker in your life. So let's get started. Hello, everybody. It's Marcy from wavesofcommunication.com, and today I have a very special guest for you. I am here with Jake, and I'm going to let Jake introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about who he is and how he helps people all over the world.
Thanks for having me, Marcy. So my name is Jake Steiner. I deal with myopia, which is nearsightedness, short-sightedness, basically when you can't see at further distances without glasses. This applies in many ways to children because now that parents are using iPads and phones as babysitters, children are becoming nearsighted at an early age. They're being taken to the optometrist, they're being sold glasses, and that starts a very rapid cycle to your kids having increasingly very poor eyesight, which freaks out parents and is fairly easily preventable. Professionally, I'm a stock trader and investor, so this is a passion project that I started 20 years ago. I had very high myopia myself. I now have 20/20 eyesight. Endmyopia.org, we help people all over the world who've got glasses and would like to be less dependent on those.
I have talked on my channel a lot, especially this year, about tech use and how it affects children in other ways as far as their engagement and connection with parents. But this is another detriment that people don't realize is happening with their children. Can you talk a little bit about how tech use affects our eyes?
So the problem with eyesight and children's eyesight especially is the child's eye is developing, and there is the short version. There's something called a focusing muscle, the ciliary in the front of the eye that controls a lens. The lens works like the autofocus in a camera, basically. The closer you are from an object that you're focused on, the more tight that muscle gets. So there's something called NITM, near-induced transient myopia, or pseudomyopia that parents can look up on Google Scholar, scholar.google.com, very useful. There's a huge amount of scientific evidence for this. The muscle gets stuck. So what happens is when you let your kids be babysat by the iPad or worse, a phone, the smaller the screen, and of course they've got little short arms, they hold these devices very close to their face, that muscle's very tight. And what happens is the muscle spasms eventually, doesn't relax, and now the child's vision is stuck in close-up mode. Can't see you clearly, not because an illness or a defect or a genetic issue, stuck muscle. So now the child starts squinting at you because you let them spend 3 hours in front of an iPad. You get scared, you take them to the optometrist says myopia, and you get glasses for the kids, even though the stuck muscle is the problem. And what I recommend, and I have 2 kids, is know this distance. The distance that is a kid's arm length is never appropriate. You know, for playing with Legos, for any moving distances is fine, but a fixed distance, like looking at a screen, is going to affect children's eyes very quickly.
What you're recommending is not lenses that sort of cater to that eye weakness. How do you help parents to overcome this myopia?
There's no weakness in the eye. It's
not a weakness.
It's a common misconception, not your fault, but the things that parents are being sold is based on a genetic defect which doesn't exist. I always recommend parents ask for sources. You know, show me the science, show me the peer-reviewed clinical research that says this is genetic, because it is not. The eye's not weak, the muscle is stuck, and the muscle is stuck because it moves. It's a circular muscle that is very relaxed when you look at a distance, and the closer you get to an object, the more that muscle tightens up to focus the lens in your eye. Perfectly healthy eye. That muscle is just not designed to be in full close-up mode, right? The closer you get, the tighter it gets. So at some point, a kid with an iPad, that muscle is extremely tight. you
Right.
take the iPad away at some point, the muscle doesn't fully relax. So
Yeah.
the lenses, and there's like ortho-K and atropine drops and all kinds of things, they don't address the cause. Like the cause is not some unknown issue. The cause is muscle spasm because something close to the eye. So the
Right.
intervention is very simple. Don't have this close up.
It's
TV
habit
distance is
change.
fine.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
because it was a habit that caused the muscle to become stuck, the habit of watching something too close. So the solution is to change the habits, not accommodate this stuck muscle status.
yeah, and exactly, that's exactly right. And if you my solution, and this the correct, I'm saying the correct solution, get the muscle unstuck, doesn't require spending any money. So it is semi unlikely that you're going to go somewhere. Ortho-K costs thousands of dollars a year. Atropine drops aren't expensive, but still require office visits and all this stuff. There is no money to be made. And I'm not saying there's malice involved. It's just not, there's no sense in selling you something. So you're less likely to hear about a thing when the solution is free and simple. It's not for children. The children holding an iPad watching it is bad for many reasons. Many of them aren't my area, but
Right.
things
I've
that you
already
talk
talked
about a
about
lot.
that in other videos. Like I said,
Yeah,
there are a lot of reasons that this is good. But what I think is so interesting about how the problem that you're solving is so similar to the problem that I am solving, in that it's caused by habits. Where a lot of the parents who I'm working with who believe their children are neurologically impaired because someone made money by booking an evaluation with them and giving them a diagnosis that someone else can make money selling them therapy for, when over and over and over again on my channel, I'm giving, there is no cost involved for you to engage with your child. There's no cost for you to monitor your child's visual input, whether it's iPad, TV. How are they using the iPad? Are they on the table with it? You know, a lot of little kids will have, you know, table height right here and the iPad right here. So it's literally inches away.
yeah. It's 6 feet, like if you're 5, 6 feet away, 2 meters, a larger screen at a greater distance has the same visual impact, so the child gets the same benefit. The distance is absolutely key. This distance, child arms distance, never good. I have a kid who's now 6, has perfect eyesight, was never allowed to hold a phone. And that sounds draconian, but if your child has ever squinted, or you have friends' parents whose small kids have glasses, you do not want to go down that road, because child's eyes, and this is a slightly different topic, but once you put minus lenses, glasses on children's eyes get worse extremely quickly. And they're not getting weak. There's a mechanism in the eye that causes the eyeball itself to elongate based on a stimulus that the lenses inadvertently cause. So that's
Uh,
called lens-induced myopia. That's
and that's
another
a
big
permanent
biology.
damage. That's a permanent damage.
It's not permanent. It's the eyeball adjusts itself. It's a fluid-filled ball, right? And
Ah,
as all things in our body, it's not a perfect shape. So there's a mechanism that maintains the roundness of the eyeball. In the front is the lens, and in the back is the retina, where the lens focuses the light and it travels to the brain. And in between is a fluid-filled ball, but it's not perfect, and the shape is always kind of adjusting. So there's a mechanism built into the retina that checks that the light focuses correctly. And if the light focuses a little bit in front of the retina, as it does with babies, they're all hyperopic, the eyeball adjusts in length. The eyeball gets shorter if the light focuses in front of the retina. The eyeball gets longer if the light focuses slightly behind the retina. So the eyeball is always adjusting in length. Minus lenses affect that adjustment by they're focusing a little bit of light behind the eyeball, and it's causing the eyeball to elongate. It will shorten again. It will go the opposite direction also. Interesting science on that, but much more difficult of a process to engage your child in trying to reduce glasses than avoiding the elongation in the first place. So
right.
any parent who's listening to this, who's given their child glasses more than a year ago, will tell you that was not the only pair of glasses they got. Because in a year, in less than a year, it's going to be notably worse. And not worse because the eye is weak or bad or somehow defective. It's just it adjusted to the lens. It happens very quickly and goes quite far. And then it's really an issue because now your child, the fine motor control development is affected from glasses. Child doesn't have peripheral vision. Anxiety happens because no peripheral vision. Social
Yeah.
interactions are affected. Like everything, a kid with glasses is not a scenario you want.
Right. So, and actually, let's talk a little bit more about that because I am positive that there are parents who are following my channel who have gone that route, who are currently have kids with glasses on that they're struggling with or not or whatever. Can you talk a little bit about characteristics of a child or a situation where the glasses are failing? Can you talk about how that looks so a parent might identify when it's time to rethink those glasses?
Um, so the problem with the glasses on the kids, I had glasses as a kid. I can speak to that from firsthand experience. You're getting social anxiety. Your interactions are slightly different. One of the things that happens is your head and eye movements are not the same as somebody without glasses because your eyes have to focus through the center of a lens, so they're somewhat fixated, and then your head movement follows looking through that lens. Versus somebody who doesn't wear glasses, there's different head movement, there's different eye movement, very subtle, but it makes you look a little bit off if you're wearing glasses. Affects the social interaction with other kids that are extremely astute to this. There's something funky about this kid with the glasses. They're more anxious because they don't have peripheral vision, right? So they don't like playing ball games and things because they've learned they can't tell the ball flying at them. If it hits the glasses, then they can't see. So the child is going to become more introverted, is going to become less socially interactive once the glasses are present. Like it's generally, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional. I've done this for 20 years as sort of it's something I fell into. But now I've had a lot of experience with this and I see this a lot. And I always recommend if you can avoid getting into glasses with your kid is ideal. And then especially if your kid isn't very happy with the lens wear in general, they're going to be receptive to getting back out of it. Right? So reducing the dependence on the glasses is always a great idea with the ongoing development of the child.
Okay, so I wrote a book that's called If It Isn't Fun, It Isn't Fun. And it sounds like that's the same advice about these glasses. If the situation isn't working out, and I think fun is useful qualifies as fun, successful qualifies as fun, problem solving qualifies as fun. Frustration from lack of success with the solution you've been trying, not so fun, right? And so that's what we're really talking about here is awareness. It's not a one fix, put the glasses on the kids and take them to the eye doctor when they make the appointment. It is a parent's responsibility here to monitor the child's visual behavior, is what you're kind of saying. Look for squinting, look for anxiety, look for avoiding ball games where they might lose those glasses, extra dependence, right, on those glasses. And parents may think the child really needs them if they're stuck on them and holding on to them and refuses to do things. And it could be that they're just so anxious about losing that crutch that they are avoiding interacting in the world, and that's going to hold them back in other areas. And the parents who are following my channel, their kids are held back in other areas. They're not talking, they're not learning, they're having trouble in school, they're being diagnosed with autism, and the number one thing they have is poor social interaction. And I think the other reason that these kids are showing poor social interaction is because they have trouble seeing the faces of people in their social community at the park. When a child is running up to them, they can't see their face clearly until they're very close, or this child may be infringing on another child's physical space, right? Because they can't see their face very well. And also, they are used to getting their best visual information, their funnest, their videos, their things they love the most right here. And
Yeah.
they also will want to have that same behavior with their peers. I want to interact with you right here. So they're going to get in their faces, and that kids aren't going to like that. Especially here's the kid with glasses who looks sideways or doesn't look sideways or whatever, because kids judge. And this is what we're talking about here, is what you as a parent might be identifying when other people in your family are talking about your kid, your mother-in-law, your girlfriends, your kids' friends, the things they are saying about their child, how they affect you as a parent, and the intervention you do for your child. If people think your kid's funny looking, you're going to start going to neurological diagnoses and things. And we're talking about a condition that there is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with the child,
Mhm.
but still they show behaviors that make other professionals who make money on those things think that, or throw these diagnoses at these kids. And so the ultimate message, isn't it, Jake, is up to parents to watch their kids, to look at them and watch their eye behavior, because it's always communication, isn't it?
Yeah, and really easy too is you can buy an eye chart or print an eye chart, hang it up at home. What you said about fun is extremely important. Don't antagonize the child. But there's children's eye charts too, right? There's all kinds of fun ways to go. Can my kid see this? It's better not to do it at the optometrist because that's scary. But if you
Right.
have it at home and it's playful and you make a game out of it, right? Like, what can I see? What can you see? You do
Yeah.
it at the eye chart's noted distance. So if you have a 6 meter chart, right, or a 3 meter chart, in feet, I don't know. You just mark out the distance and you make it a game. It has to be playful and fun and not stressful. See which line the child can read, right? And then the other thing is that number isn't static. Like in good lighting, the ability to read a smaller line is going to be more likely. If we're playing on an iPad a lot, it's likely that now we can't read the small line anymore because the muscle's stuck, right? So it's a it's an up and down. It's not a static thing. And a lot of times, if your child has terrible vision, if your child wears glasses, don't take them off and throw them away, most certainly, right? Like
Right.
it's a gradual adjustment, but it's a thing that I've done this for so long. I used to never hear from parents with young kids. Never, never. Like almost 20 years now, right? Since the internet has become so popular and since YouTube has become the new babysitter, I hear from parents every day. And it's 5 year olds and 3 year olds. That used to never happen.
Yeah.
I always say the iPad is not a babysitter. It's
No.
amazingly convenient because now your child shuts up for 3 hours, but those 3 hours are having all sorts of negative impact. A lot of what you talk about, I just talk about the eyeball. It's no good.
Right.
Like your kid will go to sleep very easily if you give them whiskey to drink too, but we've learned that you can't do that either, right? Same
Right.
with the iPad.
I agree. And so again, it is common for us, especially now we've been in a year and a half, 2 years of a year and a half of time when parents are challenged in their parenting roles. They've got to work from home while they're babysitting, and technology is available. And we're not here, I'm not, I'm sure Jake isn't either, a very kind guy who's here sharing information with all of us to alert you, to make you aware that this is a thing. It's a real thing, but it's not it doesn't have to be life changing. It can be scary, feel scary when your child's squinting and starting to avoid social contact with other people, and looking anxious and things like that. It can be scary, but when you are calm and rational about it, you start to look at behaviors and analyze them. And I think that's what Jake and I are talking about here, is really looking at the behaviors that you're concerned about and learning where they could have come from. And if it is habits, then slowly start to change those habits. You don't have to cold turkey take the tablet away from your child 24/7, just like the glasses. You don't want to take 24/7, because that kind of rapid change can backfire, can't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of other people that talk about related topics like addiction and psychological things. And like what you said, don't make extreme changes. The one change I would make, distance, right? Distance is key. Like
Yes.
the child will resist that. My boy, one of the first words that he learned in his life, if not maybe the first, were scooch back. Because we were traveling a lot and we just had iPads with us, with him being very small, and he would be on the bed and we'd have the iPad at one end and he was supposed to be, at a good distance away with a pillow, and he would slowly kind of crawl forward. He was still really small, but even though he couldn't speak and understand hardly anything, scooch back was already a thing, and he would just kind of wiggle his way back, and that became the default, right? And whenever other people would hand him the phone, we'd be like, I'm sorry, but he's not playing with phones, to never get into this distance. And once you slowly wean them back to larger distances, it's more challenging to focus. It's awesome for the eyes. The muscle relaxes. It's a good direction, right? And I'm not
Yeah, and
talking
I
about
think
other
it's
vision.
not too hard for parents to get in that habit of, okay, we are making a new rule, nothing under 6 feet. So there are ways, just like you said, the bed solution is brilliant because you set up the parameters, tablet this end, child this end. The child is going to test those boundaries. Every child does. But as a parent, you're aware and you put in a cue, a solution. We want to let you still have this iPad time, but you have to follow the rules. Scooch back. And your child was like, okay, Dad, I'll scooch back, because it was this negotiation you had. If you want iPad, you got to follow the rules. And then you were happy to allow your child some iPad time while you were moving and unpacking your house, right? And your child got exposure to those things. And in fact, like you said, it was good for his eyes that he actually had to focus a little bit harder. So win, win, win all over the situation, because you made a plan, you got it organized. And that's what I'm suggesting every parent does. What a brilliant dedication and solution to your kids, because it is challenging. It is really challenging. Some parents are cold turkey, no tablets at all, because of this kind of thing. And I think it's really challenging. It's more challenging to allow your child to have some of it and create the rules and boundaries around it. It's definitely more challenging as a parenting task. However, so worth it. So worth it, right? Because now you've got a child who gets the benefit of the tablet, and they're improving their eyes, and you found a solution to help you babysit for short periods of time that you feel good about. Win-win.
Yeah. And I have to acknowledge, it's a hard time to be a parent. It is, the technology has thrown us such a huge curveball that our parents didn't have, right? Like,
Right.
we understood boredom. Like, we understood as kids, we get bored and we find creative ways to entertain ourselves, which now our children are not necessarily exposed to that benefit, right? Boredom sets in, they get anxious, they want something, and the normal process would be that leads to them finding a way to play with whatever's around. That today doesn't necessarily happen because their friend has an iPad, right? Like, the other kids have an iPad, the other parents give their kids iPad. So if you're a parent today, it sucks for you. Like, it's definitely more tricky because you haven't learned the lessons, right? Like, the next generation will know about this, but
Yeah.
currently you're the first parent who's like, why is my kid squinting? He's 4, right? And then
Right.
your optometrist goes, genetic defect, glasses, and you're setting down a path that leads to disadvantages for your child that you really don't want or need.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. You and I are definitely on the same path in different things, because I'm fighting misdiagnosis of autism on my channel because the same situation, same exact situation. So tech addiction is causing vision issues, it's causing attention and focus issues, and it's causing parenting problems. And I think one of the other things, like you said, is it is really tough for parents right now. And I think a lot of parents have forgotten what their childhood was like, because parents now are still just barely old enough to remember what it was like to grow up as a little kid without a phone. You probably had a phone by the time you were 10, but if you were a tiny kid and you ran around outside and you knew what it was like to play with toys, and you had Polly Pockets and you had Legos and you had things like that you created your own imagination with. I think some of us have, as parents, have forgotten how to play like that, because we ourselves are addicted to our phones. We love YouTube. We love politics. We love, vaccine controversy. Even if you're on one side or another firmly, you still watch it. You still spend your time with it. And if you, as an adult, let's talk to the mommies and daddies who have got their phone 2 inches or watching it all night in the dark or whatever, and you find yourself squinting when you wake up in the morning to look across the room, this could be happening to you, right, Jake?
Oh, absolutely. And that was a really tough thing for me because I've been addicted to other things. So I understand addiction in a chemical context. Phones are the same thing. They're extremely addictive. People who've never had a drug addiction problem don't understand. They don't see the similarity. It's a huge problem. And one of the things when I became a parent is I had to address some of my screen addiction because I don't want to be the role model that daddy's sitting in front of his phone all the time. Right. So I had to curb some of my behavior to be like, I'm letting myself get bored. I'm finding other things to do. So my kid who sees me doesn't see daddy playing on the phone constantly. Right. So
Right.
it's a challenging time to be a parent, but I think if you figure it out, it's extremely rewarding. And it's kind of taking a step backwards into a time where this didn't exist. Right. And we go, how
Yes.
much of this scrolling do we really need versus doing other interesting things?
I agree. And I think this is a wonderful challenge for parents, because getting back to how it was before, right? We had this solution that was so easy to turn to. It is a good, I mean, I love my technology. I'm just as addicted as everybody else, but I also love a conversation. I love exploring in nature. I love all kinds of different things in the world. And it would be sad if my kids didn't have awareness about those things growing up, that we were all sitting on phones and didn't. But I made sure that my kids, and again, my kids are in the generation where they didn't have phones as kids. So it was natural for me as a mom to find outings and go places and do things. And even with pandemic, those things aren't available. So parents are even more challenged to come up with interesting things to do. But you can play with bubbles in the sink. You can cook together. You can fix the car. You can learn how to do lots of things at your house that, you could learn on YouTube, right? And teach your child what you're good at and engage that way. And that's kind of my message.
Yeah. I mean, we were I was living in Myanmar in a completely off-grid house that we built, and little kids' imagination is everything, right? Like the boy was playing literally in sand with sticks and stones and was perfectly happy,
Yep.
right? Like it's have to get bored first, and then the stick becomes something interesting.
That's right. And I think that's a really good point, that when kids are, again, stuck on this technology, they have no opportunity to come up with their own thought. They're looking for somebody else's next big idea instead of making their own next big idea. And when you get the opportunity to play with sticks and mud, and there is nothing else to do, but you get the opportunity to play with sticks and mud, then you use that opportunity. And I think that kids do. I think adults can too, don't you, Jake?
Oh, for sure. You have to get bored first, right? Like
That's right.
a lot of opportunity is removed from our lives if we don't take the time to get bored sufficiently to find something to do, right?
And I think what unfortunately is happening to at least the parents who follow me on my platform, and I'm sure people in your situation too, it's not boredom that causes them to make change, it's frustration, right?
Yeah,
They
sure.
go and do something to chase a magic solution, a rapid solution, something somebody tried to sell them, and they're disappointed with the results of that. Because they made an investment, they're even more disappointed because they made a financial investment or a time investment or whatever, and it didn't get the results they want. And they may even just give up on the problem completely because their first or second or third effort didn't work. And it's because they never got bored. They never tried to come up with the solution themselves. They always were just looking for the next best thing, and it arrived
because on the internet, you can always find the next best thing. And so again, if you're tempted, one of the other things that my clients are tempted to do, it's not always entertainment. It's the next best shiny object or the next best diagnosis, which is why I love that your solution is the same as mine. It's parents, awareness, making a difference, watching your kids, and habit change and keeping it fun, right? Because nobody's going to want to change habits if it's not fun. You know yourself, you lived in a house that you built yourself. That took a lot of dedication and effort, and I'm sure it was not very fun the whole time, but the dedication and when you finally finished your house, super fun. Parents, look at these stories, these similar paths where you can solve any problem you want by analysis, looking at it, and creating new habits, including vision problems and late talking and anything else in the world. So bravo, Jake. Thanks for joining me today. This was a brilliant conversation. I hope as many parents as possible are able to see it and, dig in and analyze and make these changes with your own family.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening in today. Please share this podcast episode with anybody you think can benefit. Free videos on YouTube, a daily blog in my group on Facebook, my book, If It Isn't Fun, It Isn't Fun. Teach Your Child to Talk Faster Than Speech Therapy is available on Amazon and Audible, and my coaching programs. And all the details are on my website at wavesofcommunication.com.